Ugh.
All right, here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Levels. I am Jeremy Long, and I am joined, as always, by the Sportsnista, Cassandra Cusino, and we're starting it off with we just had an earthquake in Vegas. What a weird feeling to come on. We're trying to go live, and all of a sudden my house is shaking. It's weird.
Wow. Yeah, I was hollering at the children, and they still might have caused like some extra shaking up in here, but I thought it was them. Crazy.
And of course, we are joined by Top Rank Boxing Semper Fi himself, Jamel Herring. Jamel, thank you so much for joining us, man. Where are you at right now?
Right now, I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, alongside Terrence Crawford, Maurice Hooker, Rob Brandt, which is here a few days ago. He'll be back. I have two of my fighters on board, Desmond Jarman and Sean Simpson. So it's definitely a busy camp right now. But we're having a great time. We're just honored just to be blessed with a boxing gym because we know the outcome of the circumstances going around the world.
Yeah, you
absolutely.
said two of your fighters. So are you promoting or managing them?
I'm managing. We have two fighters fighting this weekend, matter of fact, in Topeka, Kansas. On Fight TV, Desmond Jarman from Cincinnati, Sean Simpson from Chicago. I just basically wanted to use where I'm at and where I'm at in my career to help out other fighters. So I decided to put on the my manager hat along with my partner Jerry Casares from Los Angeles. We have definitely been talking with a lot of fighters around the country. And even female fighters. I'd like to give a shout out to Micaiah Krebs from upstate New York.
Okay.
She was a top amateur, so we're looking to turn her pro in the near future. But my thing is, I just want to see athletes live out their goals and dreams and put them in the best position that I could possibly put them at, so they can go from there. It's not about, for me, it's not about the limelight, because I'm happy with my own personal career, of course. And it's definitely not about the money. I just want to see, talent be showcased on a higher level.
That's dope. Well, it's nice to be at that point in your career where you could actually make that decision for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now it's kind of, we're all the different states are all in kind of different phases of opening and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you guys are all kind of together doing your different camps and such, but when I think of where you are, I mean, I don't think of, it's a 180 from where we are in Vegas, right? So, I mean, we got the lights and glittering and all that and everything shut down. But what do elite level athletes such as yourself and your team and everything, what do you guys do out in Omaha for fun?
Oh, it's crazy. Dealing with Bud is definitely funny because Bud is into everything. Just today, he wanted to actually go fishing. I'm from New York, so I don't know anything about fishing. But he's like, "You guys want to go on a boat?" I'm thinking just a boat trip. He's like, "No, we're gonna go fishing." So we're supposed to do that. Sometimes we'll go to maybe the shooting range or just do like an active sport. Like Sunday, we went a bike ride for 20 miles, and that was our workout.
Oh, wow.
Today. So every day we're all doing something. And then Bud is just definitely an interesting dude, a very competitive dude. But we trust me and believe we'll always find something to do. But as long as it basically keeps us out of trouble and getting into the wrong type of crowds, I'm all for it.
Is Steve Nelson out there with you guys too?
Yes, he is. Steven is always busy.
Yeah.
Steven is a man of many trades. So Steven is definitely always doing something. If it's not the gym, I mean, right now he's probably somewhere fixing something up right now.
I was gonna say he'd be cooking, sewing, singing.
He's probably building a house somewhere, which I wouldn't doubt.
They're building a house somewhere. Right. But you know what? We are going to talk. Top Rank is actually bringing live boxing back to Vegas, of course, minus some fans. And we're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. Cece, believe it or not, there are actually a few MMA news and notes to talk about, including our first thing, your boy, John Bones Jones. Not only is he out on the streets stopping would-be spray painters and what do you call them? I don't know.
Yeah.
Protesters at this point. He's stopping these young kids from doing harm to their own city. but he's also getting in Twitter feuds with Dana White and threatening to vacate his light heavyweight title. What is the latest going on with John Jones?
Man, so Dana and John Jones have had a contentious relationship throughout the time that he's been with the promotion. Do you watch any MMA, Jamel?
Yeah, I definitely picked it up over the years. Definitely been watching a lot of it. Matter of fact, shout out to Dana White for what he's done in terms of bringing the UFC back. Because if you look how it looks, not only boxing but other sports as well are trying to figure out a way going off his blueprint to bring back their own sport and leagues.
Do you think that the way that UFC was able to come back so quickly helped boxing?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, no doubt about it. Like I said, they laid out the blueprint. Of course, Bob Arum and others probably took what he had and probably put their own little formula to it. But you gotta give him credit. He definitely laid out the blueprint. And Dana's he's been doing really well. He's put on multiple shows now, and they all been successful. So I gotta love and respect that.
When it comes to a guy like John Jones, I find that the higher level a fighter has achieved, the more likely they are to find a fight, even when they don't have an actual physical opponent. So they're taking to Twitter now. So John is in the streets grabbing cans from kids. Now he's on Twitter cussing out his boss. I don't know how well that's going to go over for him. He had said that Dana says he has actual text messages from John who said that he wanted Deontay Wilder money, which was, what did he say it was? 17 million?
About
18
30.
million?
Well, Deontay Wilder does 30 million. Around 30
yes,
million.
30 million. That's a nice check to have, but you also got to be in a different sport if you want that kind of money, because your promoter is not cashing them kinds of checks.
And it's not just that as well. You got to look at the economy right now as well. Even boxers, we have to take a little bit of pay cuts because of the we can't really do anything without that live gate. As simple as that. Without that live gate, you're really not going to bring in much as you possibly would a year ago. So you have to look at all things into consideration.
So what's it come down to? Everyone's taking a pay cut, promoter on down to the fighter and the trainers and the chefs that you all employ. So is it just the attitude like, hey, let's just get out there and see what happens? Are you doing this as an act of good faith? Has the promotion said, we'll take care of you another time?
I believe it's like everything you just described. For me, it's all about being a team player. Most don't know. I didn't even know until recently that I'm actually going to be like the first world title fight coming back during this whole pandemic. But I look at it also like this: either like you can make something or you can make nothing. So and I believe in the end, we know how the business world works, especially with those networks like ESPN and such. They need content, So I feel like if you be a team player and just go with the terms of now that you like you pointed out, you will be rewarded later on down the road. And I know Bob Arum has stated many times that myself and my team, we never gave him much of a problem. Like we never argued. Of course, we negotiated with what we wanted to make, and we couldn't make the number that we wanted, but we made something close to it. And everyone was happy. I had no issue with it, even without a crowd, because like I stated before, I've been in venues where there was nobody in there anyway when my boxing career. So going back to that briefly shouldn't be a pain, but as long as people at home can still tune in and enjoy fights, that's all that really matters.
What card are you going to be on? Where are you fighting on?
Like I said, it's a no-brainer for me. July 2nd, obviously before the 4th of July weekend, I fought on Veterans Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Let's cap it off now with 4th of July. We're Independence Day weekend, so yeah, July 2nd is the date, and it's crazy. When I got the call, I was already planning on coming to Omaha just to stay loose and shake out. Mm-hmm. But when I got the call, it was pretty much enough a right amount of time of an 8-week training camp. So for me, I pretty much have everything that I really need. Only thing I don't have is access to the swimming pool that we usually use. But I have a boxing gym. I have a strength and conditioning facility with my own strength and conditioning coach, Jamie Belt, and I have all three of my trainers, including Bud Crawford, right next to me in the gym. So I really can't complain. I do feel for those out there who want to get back into the get back into a gym.
Yeah.
So I feel for those guys, but yeah. And to answer that question, who do I want to fight next? Of course, we all know that Carl Frampton is definitely the man, the number one priority. But I have been called out by Abner Mares, and
what's the deal with Abner? Why not that Abner Mares fight?
I would love that fight, and like I said, me, I'm a road warrior. Like I would love to come to LA Staples Center, even take that fight, because growing up, I got to witness Oscar De La Hoya versus Shane Mosley at the Staples Center, and that's till this day one of my favorite fights. So I would have no issue going to the Staples Center for that fight, because there's a lot of history in that arena, and I have a Marine Corps base over there on the West Coast as well, so that wouldn't be an issue. Getting the Marines out, but if somehow, because of all the travel restrictions, going over Carl Frampton, if I can't fight Frampton, I would love to take my chance of fighting somebody like Abner Mares.
Nice.
I think that'd be a great matchup if you can't get Frampton.
Well, you talk about hitting the road and doing your thing wherever. Kind of circling back to John Jones, he says, you know what, hit him up in 2021 for that Israel Adesanya fight, and hopefully, he says, you guys will be willing to pay by then, directing those comments to Dana White. So for the right price, fighter will travel. Can't knock the man for trying to get his money. John is what?
Get your cornbread, John.
32.
Get your cornbread.
Okay, I ain't mad. In other UFC news, UFC strawweight champion Zhang Weili wants to fight Thug Rose next, but Dana White is trying to make this Rose Jessica Andrade Part 2 happen, and the winner would get the champ. Cece, what do you think about that? I mean, Zhang is coming off one of the greatest fights, period, with that bout with Joanna. Do you think she should jump right to Rose, or let these guys play out?
I think that this is something that actually you see in your own division, Jamel, is that there are a couple of marquee names and a lot of fights to make within that. And if Dana makes that number 1 and number 2 fight, it doesn't have as much legs as if you have 3 and 4 against each other and 5 and 6 against each other, and then the winner of those two kind of fight it out, and then they fight the champ. You can't have
a little small tournament. Like I get it.
Yeah. What do you think about having tournaments within the division?
I'm all for it, as long as we still in the end can get those fights that we want to see. As you know, the issue with boxing, you have a lot of like I said, marquee names in one division, but you have so many different banners in terms of promotional bodies. So at least with the UFC, you still can make those fights within the brand. But with other fights in terms of boxing, like for example, the welterweight division, one of our biggest divisions, other than the heavyweight division, and of course, I want to see Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence fight a showdown. But because of separate entities, fights like that, it's hard to make fights like that. So I definitely credit MMA and the UFC for what they do. So I wouldn't have an issue with a little tournament, because in the end, at least we have a chance of those fighters being able to fight each other. And unlike boxing, you have too much turmoil in terms of who's the A side, who's the B side, which not even down with the networks, who gets over. It'll be Fox, it'll be ESPN, it'll be Showtime. So there's a lot of loopholes you have to go through in boxing just to get one big fight.
What's the likelihood now of Crawford and Spence fighting, given kind of this new climate of there not being fans, but there's still the pay-per-view money out there?
Right. I believe it's still a chance, because if you look, Top Rank and the PBC brand, they just did the Fury Wilder rematch. And that was a huge success. Like I said, like you point out, when it comes down to the business and it makes sense. And plus, now we live in a generation where the fans actually have a louder voice. The fans, when they keep tweeting or putting stuff content out there, even on YouTube about the fight, and they're bashing other promoters for not making the fights. These promoters, they hear that. And they, then they come, some of them come to their senses, and they make these fights. But I believe it's possible. Like I said, like Wilder, Fury's even talking about a third fight once this whole pandemic ends. So I think Spence and Crawford fight can definitely be made, especially more importantly when both fighters want the fight. That's what really counts, when both fighters want the fight.
I mean, it sounds like they do. Sounds like they both want it right now.
Right.
I can't wait. there's so many good matchups and everything. And like you said, I mean, it gets kind of tricky with different organizations, but we've also seen in the past year or two that if the money's right, you know, it'll smooth over any differences people might have. Money talks. So this Saturday is UFC 250. We see the return of the greatest female fighter of all time, Amanda Nunes, facing off against little known Felicia Spencer, 8-1 for the featherweight title. Spencer, no disrespect to her, she's had a very short MMA or UFC career, only 3 fights so far, but she's pulled off a victory against Megan Anderson? Megan Anderson, and you know, she's kind of getting this title fight because there's not a whole lot of fighters at 145, I guess. But she is a former Invicta champion. So, Cece, what do you see happening Saturday with Nunes? And does Spencer have any shot? What is her game plan going up against the powerhouse?
Well, Felice Spencer is a different type of fighter. She's just as physical as Amanda. She doesn't have the same power as Amanda does. And
I don't think
she
anybody
actually,
does.
right. She fights well off her back too, if it's going to go to the mat. But, you know, Jamel, your good friend Clarissa Shields has called out Amanda Nunes on multiple occasions. She has said she's willing to train in jiu-jitsu for a year and to get in the cage. I actually asked Amanda about it, and Amanda said, good, go ahead and train, and I will put you in a jiu-jitsu hold and see how you like it. So shots have been fired. What do you think about crossover fights like that?
We've seen it with boxing. We've seen you know, guys like Conor fight, you know, pound for pound greats like Floyd. So it'll be interesting.
Was a mistake.
Yeah, which it was, but it'll be interesting to actually see a boxer go into the cage. I mean, I think the last time I can remember when we did that was James Toney and Randy Couture some years back. And that didn't end well for us boxers. But, you know, and the same goes for, you know, fighters going into the ring. So, it's good publicity. It's always made for good, great promotion. And it's obviously done great for business. And that's, you know, obviously we all know in the combat sports world, on the professional side, it's always the business first. So yeah, it'll definitely bring in huge numbers. But is it a good idea? I don't always agree with it because, like I said, you know, Amanda is, like you pointed out, one of the greatest to ever, man, in my opinion, male or female, to get in the cage and you know, handle business. And Clarissa, of course, yeah, she's a monster. She's definitely a monster, and she's making a path for female boxing. But, you know, I respect them both for their own craft, but that's where it ends, in their own craft.
Did you see Clarissa on the Titan Games?
Yeah.
It was harder than she expected it to be, eh?
but shout out to her, because like I said, this time in age, you gotta love and respect how women's boxing is definitely getting a lot more exposure. But I always point out that I respect how the UFC, what they do for their women athletes.
Whole different ballgame.
Even they put them even in the main event, you know, on pay-per-views. And so I give, you know, Dana White and the UFC much love and respect for putting women on an even playing field as men in terms of the exposure. So that's why I love it. That's why I've been tuned into more with the UFC over the years, because they definitely do right by their women athletes.
Yeah, I think Amanda's show purse for the last fight was $350,000, and that doesn't include anything else that she gets on top of that. So, in terms of apples to apples, the female fighters get paid a lot more in UFC, and the male boxers get paid a lot more in
the male fighters.
Yeah. So, you know, trying to get all of that to like come together, you know.
Yeah. And also, you know, in that same vein, the newly retired Henry Cejudo is still saying that his proposed fight against Ryan Garcia could happen in Saudi Arabia And Cejudo is an Olympic gold medalist. He's got all these accolades and, of course, a dual champion UFC. But I think it's a different world when you step into the boxing squared circle, I guess, especially against a young cat like Ryan Garcia.
Yep.
What do you figure Cejudo's chances are against Mr. Ryan Garcia?
First of all, you got to point this out. When you mention even the fact that we're even mentioning Ryan Garcia with these well-known athletes, that tells you what the power of social media and Ryan Garcia has done.
Exactly.
Because like I said, and there's no knock against Ryan Garcia. I like Ryan Garcia. I think he has tremendous talent. But he's still a kid, and he hasn't won his first world title. But he's being mentioned with so many names, even from the boxing world and in the MMA world. For even people even considering these fights. That says a lot, of what he's doing and his following and the age we live in. Like I said, the social media age definitely drives, names to higher levels due to the people that support and follow you.
Yeah. What is have you been peeping the game of how these kind of younger boxers like a Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, how they have been conducting, I guess, their business through social media? Does that encourage you to do a little bit of what they're doing, or are you more like, hey, that worked for you, homie, it worked for you?
Nah, I'm like that works for you. Like I'm more of the I don't believe in the whole. We see too many fighters create more fights on Twitter than actually happen in the ring, and I never if it doesn't lead anywhere, I don't see the purpose of it. Even when I tweeted to Abner Mars, it wasn't anything disrespectful. He replied to it, and we were about this. Go out there and insult each other and things of that nature. So I don't really get into the whole social media, but if it draws the attention from the these guys and their fans, then hey, go for it. But I believe if somebody like myself did it, people can see right through it that it just isn't it just isn't my character. So that's what I go on first. I don't want to do anything and people feel like you're just forcing it. That's not you. That's not who you are. So just quit it and stop.
You don't want to be the Twitter champ, the best boxer on Twitter?
I've seen over the past years from Gervonta Davis and Tevin Farmer, and that was going on for over 2 years, and we never got that fight. So that's one thing where I learned from the whole Twitter thing. I was just like, if I may say something here and there to somebody if I feel disrespect, but I'm not going to make it an ongoing battle where it's a couple months or a year.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we promised we're gonna talk about these top ranked cards, and we absolutely will. I want to take a couple of minutes while we have so many people watching, and while we're having this good back and forth and everything. I think it would be, short-sighted to bury this at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. Something that Cece and I talked about, and really just what's going on in our nation right now. Our nation is at a crossroads. A lot of things happening in cities all over the world. Of course, I want to get both of your thoughts as athlete, a premier athlete, as a premier journalist, both of you, and of course African American, and everything that's happening right now. The popular notion is for sports and athletes, of course, to stick to sports. Only talk about what we paid you to perform and things like that. And that seems to be the narrative from a lot of people. But, number one, sports and politics and history have always been intertwined from the early days of the Greek Olympics back in ancient Athens and things like that. They would literally put on, if there was war going on, like the Peloponnesian Wars and things, they would literally put on, truces so that no armies could enter Olympia, so that the athletes could compete and do their things. And it's where all of these things all kind of meet. Sports is kind of like music. It's one of those things that everyone can feel and everyone can relate to. And it's a great communicator of things, especially in troubling times. So, Jamel, I'm going to start with you. Just as an athlete, as you're out there doing your thing, you're going for world titles and stuff like that. when people tell you to stick to sports, you know what? Only talk about boxing. We don't really want to hear your political, your political views and your thoughts on things.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel? Number one, how do you respond to that? And what do you think is the right move for athletes with that kind of platform and exposure? What should they do?
I believe athletes, for the most part, we try to use our platform to speak on what the people have been speaking on behind closed doors, or the ones that they don't have the voice to reach out there, to be heard. And at the end of the day, just like how you will see any regular, guy or gal out there speaking about politics who are American, we the athletes are American as well. So just because we happen to, do what we do on TV doesn't mean that, we don't have feelings or we don't share the same feelings as others in the background. But, I think for the most part, when people say that, it's funny when they were saying at one point, stick to just sports. But now I'm starting to see that some people wish now they were listening to the athletes when they were trying to do it, trying to speak their word through sports. We try to, we had the Colin Kaepernick situation. He did what he did. And plus, people forget also sometimes that I was, active duty military. I'm a U.S. Marine. So, but at the same time, I signed up to basically protect those who want to use their freedom of speech, and that's how, even if I don't agree with it, it's still his freedom of speech, and he did it in a peaceful manner. And look what they did with him. Now we've gotten to the point where things are getting real violent, and it's a real war out there amongst streets. And people now are saying, well, they wish they were listening when Colin Kaepernick and like guys like LeBron James were just speaking their mind through TV, through their sport. But instead now we got people out here rioting, looting, people officers are getting hurt, innocent bystanders are getting hurt as well, and it's just sad. But we tried to do the peaceful route, and you wanted us to shut up, but now you got the whole country going at war against each other, and it's just a bad situation.
Yeah, what do you make of, so this president has called in active duty military to police the protests in DC. He's also said that he wants that to happen around the country. As former military, what do you make of that when you hear something like, having seen that actually happen in other countries?
Right.
Do you imagine that ever happening in the United States?
I never thought I would see it, to be honest with you. I've been in Iraq twice, where we had to do things of the nature in terms of policing the area. But what's funny, the funny thing is, though, when I was in Iraq, we had a thing that I know is still around called escalation of force, where if the civilian, even in Iraq, if they're not a threat, we never were told to use any type of harm, of hurting innocent bystanders. So you would think if we would do that overseas, of course, we would, have the same approach with our own people here in the States. And it's to a point where, I actually feel a lot better with the military mindset, because I know for a fact we have there's a lot that goes behind, that goes in the chain of command. And it's like, if you get out of hand, that's basically your career. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's basically your career. Unlike with the policing, though, some of these officers, they don't have this type of training that we have. And of course, I'm all for peaceful protesting, but I never want to see, military or police, causing harm to those who are just, being peaceful protesters. Of course, yeah. I can't speak on the ones that are looting and causing crimes and things of that nature. That's a whole different ballpark. But I feel upset when I actually do see innocent people out there just having, just want to speak their mind and share their thoughts, and they're the ones getting hurt. Unlike when you see videos of people just tearing down buildings and breaking in and doing whatever. I just seen it. It's crazy. I think I just seen a video from California where a couple of guys stole cars of a Dodge dealership. It was like no police or military over there. But you get to the scenes where people are, protesting and using their First Amendment, and they're the ones that's getting, pepper sprayed and I just seen a video of police shooting rubber bullets at teenagers, literally just running away, whatever. And it is just sad. I feel like, you know, they need to direct that energy with those who are, you know, causing the crimes. And, you know, like I said, they're here to serve the people and not hurt the people.
Yeah, where do we go from here in terms of allowing people to have a voice, but not being destructive?
You know, that's just hard to say because, like I said, like we pointed out earlier, this is nothing new in history.
It's new here in the sense, but throughout the world now we've seen plenty of bloody skirmishes.
I mean, it hurts. Like, because I have friends out there now, you know, protesting, and I have to worry about them because, you know, I've seen innocent, you know, people being killed now. And I'm not here to say all officers are bad, because I have close friends that I grew up with, and their fathers or mothers were officers, and they're great people. Even myself, even when I was getting out of the military, before I even decided to go pro, I wanted to be an officer for New York. So all officers are definitely not bad, but you know, they definitely don't have the best rep in today's world because of everything going on in the media. I'm pretty sure we all know a good officer out there that's doing their job for the right thing. But you know, we have to basically stop overlooking the problem as well, because you know, people sometimes a lot of people, like you pointed out, they just want you just to be quiet. Not just the athletes, they just want to act like the problem doesn't exist, and that's where the problem is at, and that's where the frustration and anger comes from. You know, when these protesters, they like, we try to do this, we try to do the peace of route, we try to march in peace, we try to do this, and it's like we can't get anywhere unless we, you know, but once we start showing some signs of anger, and you know, and we start fighting back aggressively, that's when we get the attention. But then they turn it into the wrong type of attention. So it's just, like I said, we all have to come together as people. I don't look at skin color, but I do see when you know, blacks and Latinos are being attacked the most. Like I said, it's just crazy. Like in the last couple of years, we've seen many attacks against Hispanics, mainly Mexicans, since our president was in office. And like I said, I'm not going to say all of his supporters are bad, because I have close friends, and you know, we can have a conversation about politics, and they support Trump, and I have no issue with that. But you know, you got some people that think that supporting Trump means that you're just all for the ruckus. But like we talk about this all day.
You know,
it's been more than just these riots. It's been causing all this fuel for the fire.
How have you been able to stay focused? So we had the pandemic, people getting sick and people dying, the quarantine, your business stops, and then you can't actually get into gyms. And then now, lo and behold, there's complete, utter civil unrest in the streets too. Does it help you that you're in camp with likes of Terrence Crawford and Rob Brand and Steven Nelson, that you are all basically veterans of the sport as well? Do you help keep each other kind of grounded? Because everybody's sending you like little tweets like, hey, look at this video. Oh, did you see this?
Yeah. I'm definitely, for the most part, I try to block out at least when I'm in the gym. You know, I try to just block out what's going on in the outside world. Just you know, because for me, boxing has always been my, you know, therapeutic for me. So just training keeps my mind off of things. But you know, like I said, in the end, I'm all human. Me, Terrence, and Steven, we speak about, you know, we everything's on social media now, so we see the stuff that's going on, and I think actually it would be wrong for us to even to ignore it completely. You know, like one thing is focusing on what's going on what's in front of us, which is boxing. But you know, for us just to completely ignore it, I think that'll be just wrong on our part. And you know, I actually been attacked. People calling me all types of names from you know, because I have a military background. They think that I support an injustice system, but it's like at the same time, you know, I'm human just like you. You know, my reasons for defending the country was not because I thought that, you know, of the system and things. No, my reason has always been to protect the people here. That's always been my belief. I came from the 9/11 attacks. I'm from New York. You know, that played a huge role in why I joined the military. It had nothing to do with you know, playing somebody's puppet. But, you know, like I said, I have to be professional at the same time, and I have to handle it a certain way. But at the end of the day, I'll never forget where I came from. I know my roots. You know, I'm proud of being an African American, and like I say, I'm proud of being to serve our military, because I have served with great men and women. But you know, like I said, I have to also be realistic and see what we're dealing with and why. You know, because at the end of the day, they're not gonna. When somebody sees me out there, they're not gonna look at me first as, oh, he was a U.S. Marine or something like that. They look at my skin color first. So that's what I mean by being realistic. But I have faith. Even though things are wild and crazy now, I do believe that somebody's gonna have to come to their senses and be like, look, we have to make some sort of change, and we have to do it the right way, because if not, you know, our country is gonna go, you know, down the hole.
Well, let's you know, before we move on from this topic, I got a couple of points here that I wanted to share with you guys, because it's, you know, we talk about sports and the intertwined with politics and the national thought process and everything else. So some of the scandals over the years, just very quickly, right before we get to the top ranked cards, you know what, back in the day, a lot of people don't realize that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, George Washington supplied alcohol to election parties where all sorts of games and sports were common to encourage voting, and oftentimes voting for different political things, you know, different to sway votes one way or another.
Get wasted and vote.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson curried favor by sponsoring shooting contests. In 1832, the thing at the time was, I'm not going to get into the whole what happened in 1832. But anyway, the national voice was focused on a horse race, believe it or not, where there were two horses. One was called Andrew Jackson, the current president at that time, and Nullifier. And it had to do with taxes and all this other stuff. But everyone was in a tizzy. All eyes were on Richmond, Virginia, as this horse race went down, and it made national news everywhere. And of course, if you're wondering, Andrew Jackson, the horse, won.
Okay.
And now it's a little more modern times. Berlin, 1936, a young man named Jesse Owens stood up against Adolf Hitler and his plans for Aryan supremacy, and showcasing that at the Olympics to win 4 gold medals, and left Berlin a national hero. Mexico, 1968. Tommy Smith and John Carlos, after winning their medals respectively, raised the black glove fist that is forever captured and memorialized. And
you forgot one with the Adolf Hitler situation, Max Schmeling in the Joe Louis fight.
Joe Louis,
that was definitely a huge event for, like, not just the you know, countries, but it was like like the whole world was on that rematch.
Absolutely.
And it's sad because Max Schmeling wasn't a Nazi supporter, but, you know, of course he was German, so he had to roll that way. But, you know, once he lost that fight, you know, he took a lot of scrutiny. But on the bright side of things, him and Joe Louis were actually best of friends until they both passed.
Yeah, absolutely. And along those lines, 1946, Jackie Robinson, baseball, altering, you know, this is right after World War II. You know, it was such a big deal. Less than 10 years later, of course, black athletes could, you know, be in baseball freely and everything. But up until that point, you know, it was such a huge deal about the national conscience about black athletes and segregation and all of this. And so, you know, Brooklyn Dodgers, Branch Rickey, all of that whole stuff. And that's actually 8 years before Rosa Parks, 10 years before Martin Luther King Jr. was really a prominent name in our nation and everything, really big. And then, of course, famously 1967 with Muhammad Ali, the Vietnam War, him being stripped of the title for not enlisting, and the case going all the way up to the Supreme Court, and you know, the fallout there and everything that happened. So, you know, the final point on this, and you said it just a while ago, Jamel, you know, when people say, you know, they don't really want to talk, they don't want to have their politics in sports or sports in their politics or anything else. I think a lot of times what people are saying is, I'm uncomfortable with this conversation. I don't want to have this conversation. And you alluded to it, but it's these times where we have to have these conversations.
And that's exactly what I meant by even just the conversation about racism.
Yeah.
People don't want to acknowledge it. I know when we say Black Lives Matter, it doesn't mean that only our lives matter. It means pretty much, our lives matter just as much as anyone else's lives in America. But people, then they try to twist it up. And of course, it did the all lives matter, blue lives matter, things of that nature. But I get the point of it, and it's but it's one of those things. Like I said, people feel uncomfortable about talking about the topic of race, where they don't want to hear about it. Even they definitely don't want to hear about it from their favorite athletes. They'd rather see their favorite athletes just dribble a basketball or throw a ball or something, or throw punches instead of actually speaking on touching topics.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's something that's going to continue on, and hopefully it does continue on, and the conversation doesn't get lost in, what you said earlier, the rioting and looting and all of that. The worst thing that could happen from all of this is nothing, so
exactly.
I don't want to cut anyone off. Final thoughts on any of that before we go into the top rank boxing?
Well, in combat sports has this really weird thing that happens with fans is that there's this chant that breaks out when people are saying USA, USA. And we saw this and it happens a lot more in UFC, but most recently in boxing with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury.
Right.
Fury was dominating that fight. Of course, there were a lot of international presence, but there was also the chanting of USA in that arena for Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder at the time was the only American-born heavyweight champion in the world. And you know why? People are chanting USA because that is reverence for the fighter who is not African American. And there is definitely the presence of kind of an awareness of race when fighters are in the ring or in the octagon, and it's very clear when fans do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something else. It's still something. I mean, in the soccer leagues in Europe, the chants that come down from fans and everything, directed at certain players, especially players of color, and it's still something that it's hard to believe in 2020 that we still have to have these conversations. But I think if we got to have the conversation, I think it's important that we step up to bat, and the people with the platforms, with the fan bases and with that spotlight on them, I think it's important that they do step up and, help us have these conversations. So, all right. So long alluded to, let's get into these top rank cards coming up on June 9th. We got some fights again. I'm so excited about this. Shakur Stevenson and actually it's a non-title fight against Felix Caraballo here at MGM. Cece, take it away with Shakur. That's your guy.
I give him a lot of credit for stepping up for that fight. There are a handful of title holders and non-title holders who are like, if ain't no fans, I ain't coming. Holler at me in 2021. They'll sit it out. But Shakur is a big name, a rising name, and important to that top ranked stable as well. And so they're fighting in a ballroom. They're not even fighting in the actual arena.
It's actual ball because there's no fans.
Right. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'll look good on TV. They'll find a way for it to look, really good and professional. But I give him a lot of credit. Have you seen him at all through this camp, Jamel?
No, I know he's been down in Houston working, of course. Because we share the same publicist and Ruby Gold Sticker. We have the same nutritionist with Perfecting Athletes. So of course I know everything that goes on with the team for the most part. But I'm just glad to see him back because if you all remember, his fight was the first fight that was canceled when the whole virus hit back in March. Like he was prepared to fight that they said, okay. I remember they had the weigh-in and everything. Then they said, okay, we're not gonna have a crowd. And then the very next hour, they just canceled the whole entire card. And I know he was just heartbroken. So it's great. It's great to see that he's at least the first card to return. But I know he's been really working hard. I know he's just eager to get back in there, and I look forward to seeing him back in there as well.
Do you foresee any weight cutting issues like we saw in UFC? Tony Ferguson, for instance, he cut weight twice before he actually got into the octagon. Do you see kind of the layoff at all being impactful for Shakur in this way?
I don't think Shakur should have much of an issue. Remember, he was fighting at 126, and he's actually making his 130-pound debut. And not to mention, if you watch Shakur over the course of time, he's always training, he's always in the gym. Mm-hmm. So I don't think, and plus, like I said, he has perfected athletes, does a tremendous job of making sure the athletes not only cut the weight properly, but they also rehydrate the right way, because they're all about taking care of the brain. So you definitely need to rehydrate, get that fluid around your brain to take the impact of those punches. But overall, I don't see Shakur having an issue making the weight.
In case y'all just tuning in, we have WBO champion Jamel Herring on with us, who's been gracious enough to stick with us for the entirety of the show. So he's in Omaha getting ready for his next scrap.
Absolutely. The co-main on that one is going to be Michaela Mayer, your girl. You like to talk about her.
That's going to be a good one. That's the one I'm really interested in really seeing, because Helen Joseph is definitely, I've seen some of her fights in the past, and she's definitely a tough cookie for sure. I know Michaela has the amateur pedigree. She's an Olympian. So that definitely plays a huge, tremendous, part on her side. But I think she's going to be in for a real good fight. I think that fight probably could potentially steal the show, because I look at what Shakur is for me, I believe he's going to outclass his opponent, but I believe the Michaela's fight in the co-main event is definitely going to be a back and forth, action-paced fight, especially for in the female boxing division as well.
I thought that it was great that even though Michaela does have a following and she's a former Olympian, that I thought it was great that Bob put her on the card, because it's going to get a lot more attention than a lot of other fights would, because nobody's watching anything else.
Exactly, and that's the reason why I agreed myself to even return, because I'm thinking about the business side of things. Like, everyone's at home still. Everyone wants their sports. So of course, I believe even you're probably drawing a lot more casual fans than what you normally would see, just based on the fact that there's sports on TV. So
right,
and we'll definitely see that come June 9th. You'll probably see the numbers and the ratings be something far more than above average than we're normally used to seeing.
Yeah, let me tell you, with all the unrest, I have found solace in combat sports. So we watching new fights, old fights, whatever fights every day of the week in my house. So we're super excited to see that.
Well, when you mention old fights, for both of you, what old fights do you instantly turn on? What are those classics that you run to?
Like I said earlier, my classic is De La Hoya Mosley 1. Hopkins Trinidad is also
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
So I love one of my favorite fighters growing up was Eric Morales. So I can only watch the Eric Morales Pacquiao fight #1. The next two are heartbreaking, but I definitely I can sit and watch the old fights, even back into the 80s and things of that nature. So yeah, I that has definitely I can honestly say, I fight on ESPN. I've definitely been enjoying the Zone app. Old fights, and even ESPN has their old fights as well. But I've been taking advantage of all that type of, my subscription and using it and watching that content.
What about you?
You know what? This week it's been Hagler Hearns, all of them, and all of them. But you know what? I also watched most recently was Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman, and that fight is even though it was, widely talked about, it's underrated for the amount of action in that fight. And I know, Keith had lost some of those early rounds, but it was competitive from jump. And I like watching kind of like those smaller guys because it's a scrap from A to Z.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's wonderful. The skinny, the smaller fighters, man, they fight till a burger. I love it.
Yeah, there's a cat on one of the top ranked cards, Navarrete. Man, that guy throws.
Oh, yeah. He was busy. He had a busy 2019.
Yeah. And he's up again. I mean, how many? He fought, I think, 3 times last year.
No, I think
within
he fought,
6 months.
I think he fought 5 times in the whole year.
Do you want to be that busy at this point?
I mean, we would love to be that busy, but is it good? Especially, but when you're at of course, at that level, when you're fighting at world title fights, it doesn't do much for the body. So you have to take those breaks. But I mean, then again, from the old days and from the 1930s and 40s, those guys was fighting so many times just in 1 month. Multiple times in 1 month. So today's is a different world, of course, but. Of course, for the most part, we do see a lot of fighters that actually do want to be more active, though.
Yeah, talking about guys like Floyd Patterson and guys like that had 100+ something fights, insanity. And just to go back and answer your question, Julian Jackson, anything with the Hawk, one of my favorites. I absolutely just the guy just
one of the biggest punchers.
If he touched your chin, you were done. So I love seeing the old knockouts like that. Okay, so June 11th, the next card would be Jesse Magdaleno, the former champ, and Yuniful Vicente. That one should be pretty good. And of course, a friend of the show, Adam Lopez and Luis
Blue Nose.
Blue Nose. He's going to be on there fighting as well. Jesse Magdaleno, trying to get back. Kind of switching divisions, doing his thing against a pretty dangerous guy, Vicente. What do you see in that main event, Cece?
Well, we talked with Jesse's brother,
Diego,
2 months ago or so about it. And what he's saying is that there comes a time, I think, in every fighter's career where you either evolve or you keep doing the same thing and you get stuck and eventually go away. And this is a moment where we're going to see if Jesse's going to be able to evolve. That's a dangerous fight for him.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't really tell you that. I pretty much agree as well. Especially with a whole different division, So, like Jesse, he has the heart of a fighter, but like I said, if he hasn't evolved or changed anything up, it could be a rough night.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course, Adam Lopez on there as well.
I like Bruno. I think he did a hell of a job against Oscar Valdez.
Yeah,
Oscar Valdez is a warrior as well. I believe I was there in the venue of course, live. That's what I heard the same night. But I thought, I was entertained from start to finish. I thought they ended it prematurely, but in the end, as you can see, he was rewarded. Adam has been rewarded by Top Rank, and they've done good by him by bringing him back and getting him more exposure. So, like I said, even though people sometimes look at today's boxing world, a loss can damage a career. A loss for him, definitely built him up to a greater platform.
Because he could have won that fight. I mean, he dropped Oscar early and really took it to him. Oscar Valdez's opponent came in 11 pounds overweight. And so he, Adam took that fight on like 12 minutes notice. Stepped. I think he was an NABF champ too at the time. So he definitely had the experience to get in there. But he also came in, I think, 6 pounds or 5 pounds under what Oscar came in at too. So he was at a lot of disadvantages fighting in the Cosmo that night. So yeah, love that kid though. He's tough.
Yeah, you gotta give him respect. Like I say, he stepped up at the last minute against not just anybody, but a world champion. And
it almost
took him out, and he earned a lot of fans and respect. I remember running into him at the Wilder Fury rematch on the weigh-in. I told him, "Hey man, you made me a fan, and I definitely wish you nothing but the best of luck in the future.
And he's being trained by Buddy McGirt,
My
right?
guy, Buddy McGirt.
So
Buddy McGirt,
they're doing.
Buddy McGirt is I'm from Long Island, so Buddy McGirt is our first world champion. Chris Algieri's our second, and I happen to be the third. So we always share that bond. But yeah, a lot of respect and love for Buddy McGirt. A great trainer.
Yeah, absolutely, man. One of the greats. And of course, now we have fans chiming in, giving predictions on your fight. Actually, one fan, Keith Bass, saying that you're going to drop him 2 times, and he predicts you're going to finish him by the 7th. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Hey, I like that prediction. Personally, things I'm not gonna lie to you. I want to get them out as fast as possible, especially when there's not really a crowd atmosphere there. I just want to get in and out. But
you're not getting paid overtime.
Yeah, we don't get paid overtime to go, to go the full distance anyway. So, like I said, I appreciate those standing by me because I know a lot of people have been frustrated, especially with the opponents that nothing is going on.
Right.
But I'm glad we can. Matter of fact, I'm glad I can even address that on the platform. The reason why you guys probably won't be seeing a lot of these top fights is because you guys can't be a part of the event, and it comes down to the business of it. That's why when you hear that Fury Wilder we probably push back to 2021 is because they want to make sure that if they have fights of that magnitude, they want the people to be there. They want even something with myself and Carl Frampton. That fight, I was willing to go to Belfast, but when the virus hit. And the people were taken out of the equation, we had to put those type of fights on hold. So it's not that, fighters are just looking for, the cherry pick and go the easy route. It's just that we got to take what we can take for what it's worth. If I put it out like that. But, but I still appreciate people just, even willing to, want to tune in and still continue to watch and support their favorite fighters out there.
And that is July 2nd, right?
July 2nd.
July 2nd, we're going to see our guy get back into the ring. But before we let you go, man, number one, thank you so much for taking time out to chat with us and chat with us.
I have a great time. When you guys ask, what do I do in Omaha during camp? This is pretty much it behind me. This is it. Speaking with you people just about boxing and sports, I'm happy. So, because like I said, after this, all I'm going to do is just rest and be prepared for tomorrow morning's workout.
Go see what Steve Nelson cooked.
Oh yeah. Go get a recipe from Steve. Or matter of fact, I know it's funny. Tomorrow he's giving out haircuts, so a couple of guys are gonna get haircuts tomorrow.
This dude is a barber, a chef, a singer, a sewer.
That's my guy.
Yeah, I think last time when we had you guys on,
he's an Army vet. That's why, and a lot of people don't know that because he does so many great things, outside of boxing. People forget to acknowledge him and give him his credit for being an Army vet. But I always make sure put that out there because Steven, if you let him, he'll just stay quiet about it. But Steven has served his time as an Army vet and even went overseas.
Yeah, and I remember last time when we had both you guys on. I mean, there were promises of singing. You and Steve, or maybe one of you by yourselves, or something like that. So we still got to hold you guys to those promises. We got to get the right song together for you guys.
Funny thing is, see, a lot of people don't know, but Terrence Crawford, he will get into it also. Don't be fooled by the betrayal of Terrence and his demeanor in terms of fight ring, because Terrence is actually a big kid himself. He does he wants to do breakdance battles in the gym. He wants to sing Temptations one day. Terrence, he wants to battle you in Call of Duty on a PlayStation. He's the biggest kid I know, but he's one of the most humble and good dudes out there. He just takes his craft very seriously, of course, but if you really sit down and get to know him, he's probably one of the most coolest guys out there.
That's fun, man. I can't wait to see that. I want to see breakdance battles between you guys.
Yeah. I want to.
Oh my God, they're breakdance fighting.
I have 3 or more recorded on the phone. I haven't uploaded them on social media yet.
Oh, you got to put them up.
Videos, or it didn't happen. That's how we live now. Well, Jamel, thank you so much, man. Once again, for taking time out, chat with us, chat with the fans. We can't wait to talk to you again, especially after you win this next fight, especially after you get this title. And, for all you guys there at your camp in Omaha, best of luck with your upcoming your fights and everything. And stay focused, stay safe. And Cece, before we sign out, last words.
Hey, just good luck to you. Appreciate you using your voice and your platform always for good, and making sure that you're speaking truth to power. And so get the work done, man. Looking for you in July.
And I see you over there in the comments, Mike Dixon. You've been on here all night. I see. So like I said, I take time to acknowledge those who show love and support, and I'll make sure to tell Steven that you need a cut. He will get to you, Mike. You need a cut. But like that, thank you for having me on. And if anyone wants to reach me, at Jamel Herring, Instagram and Twitter. Like I said, I'm a people person first, and I have no issues, sharing my thoughts and opinions with anyone out there.
Perfect.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you guys so much. And thank everyone for tuning in, watching it, all the comments and likes and shares. We appreciate all that. Be sure to tune in to Top Rank and their cards, live boxing back here in Vegas. And, of course, be on the lookout July 2nd as our guy Jamel Herring steps into the ring to capture a title. And he don't get paid overtime, so he's going to make
the title's behind me. We have the title.
Where is it? Can we see?
Hold up. We have the title, man.
The WBO
will be the first one to defend the world. Well, in a world title fight, to be showcased. So that's the goal, and hopefully all goes well. I'll defend my title successfully, and we'll get Carl Frampton or Adam Mars or a unification bout in the future.
I like it. Hold that title up real quick for us.
This is for the people. People's channel.
Look at that. That is beautiful, man.
Right on.
Now we actually, I said we were going. We had Teofimo Lopez on a couple of weeks ago, and he just got his new belt in, showed it off for the first time and everything. When you get those big silver cases and you open it up and it's yours, can you describe that feeling when you see that?
For me, it's actually been the greatest feeling, because if anyone who followed my story, I've been the underdog from the start. Even coming out at the Olympics as a team captain, I was the least expected to do much as a pro. And I had my ups and downs, but I just never gave up on myself. And that's why things like that basically is what keeps me humble and grounded. Because I remember where I came from, and I never look over anyone as I'm better than anyone. If anything, I use my platform, just to share my story, try to encourage others to go for their goals and dreams as well. But definitely, even when I look at that belt, it's still I'm still amazed, because I remember everything I had to go through just to get it. So I know Teofimo is definitely rejoicing as well. But the one thing I don't like about the belt is that case is heavy. I don't like the. I can't just imagine. Guys with multiple titles out there, man. Those cases are heavy.
You need a case man, somebody who just carries your case.
That's why they hire those guys and just follow them with the. I wouldn't want to carry that.
I know one thing. If you ever notice this little thing, I'm sure once I say this, you guys are gonna look for it now. If you ever notice with Terrence, he never carries his old belts around. He only carries the belt that he's technically the champion of now. So you only see him right now with his WBO title, but he never, because he said the belts are just too heavy. He doesn't bring the titles that he's unified at the 140 division. He only carries the WBO welterweight division title now, because like I said, those cases it's just too much to lug around.
Makes sense. He need to carry the belt man too.
Well, there you go. The perfect next job for CC is we'll get her lined up with Bud, and you could just walk in front of him, carry his title, all the belts he has and everything, so he don't have to do that.
I got you.
We got it. All right. For everyone here at Levels, Jamel Herring, July 2nd, he's going to do his thing, man. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Shout out Vegas Sports Daily.